Well, hello everybody and welcome to day one of the 12 Tech Tips of Christmas. My name is Tristan and I am the creator of the EdTech Teacher. In this limited 12-episode series, we are going to share 12 tech tips or resources with you that you could use in your classroom as we head towards 2021. On today's episode, we are going to look at how easy it is to shorten URLs using URL shortening services. And don't forget that we have a new episode available each day from December 13th all the way up until December 24th, 2020. Well, we hope you enjoy day one of the 12 Tech Tips of Christmas from the EdTech Teacher.
All right, one of my most favorite tech tips ever, and something that I have talked about multiple times throughout 2020, is URL shortening services. I love this particular tech tip because it saves my sanity as a teacher, but also makes it much easier for my students and colleagues to access really complicated and long URL addresses when I need them to go and look at something. So we probably all had that moment in a classroom where we've put a URL up on the projector or we've written one up on the board that is very long and complicated. It's full of letters, numbers. It might be full of special symbols. It might be 20, 30, 40 characters long. Somebody in our class or one of our colleagues who is typing that into Google or Edge or whatever particular browser they're using, someone's going to make a mistake and they're going to shout out across the classroom or the staff room or wherever we are and say that they can't get into that particular site. Look, it's not a situation that we like to hear when we are doing something and we're in the flow and in the moment. So instead of being prone to this particular moment in our teaching, why don't you use a URL shortening service to prevent this from happening? And guess what? I'm going to show you two really great URL shortening services that are free. My favorite price. Okay, absolutely free. So the first one I'm going to show you today is tinyurl.com. Tinyurl.com is a fantastic URL shortening service. Look, it's not the prettiest, but it does the job, which is making our URL address much shorter so it's much easier for our students to copy down and access. So you can see here that all we need to do to use tinyurl is go to tinyurl.com. And then we have this box here in the middle of the page where we enter our long URL and we make it tiny. So all we do here is click on our box, and I've already got a URL address that I'm going to put in here. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to paste my address, and then I'm going to click on Make Tiny URL. So it's going to take my document, and it can tell me here that my document originally had 84 characters, and this has resulted in the following tiny URL, which has been created with only 28 characters. So I've lost 50 odd characters here, which is going to be much easier for my students to access and use in the classroom. So now if you actually go to that tiny URL address there, and you're more than welcome to go to that address, you will see what is in that particular document that I would be sharing with my students or colleagues. So tinyurl is fantastic. It takes really long, complicated URL addresses and makes them shorter. Now, if we just head back, and I just want to go back to the homepage of tinyurl here, you can see here that we can also create a custom alias. So this means that second and back part of the URL address here, we can customize for our particular faculty, units, lesson, class, school, whatever we're customizing it for and whatever the URL is for. Just be wary that obviously if a particular address or combination has already been used, you're going to have to come up with something else. But it's not too hard to come up with something that is much easier and more simplistic for our students to access, for our colleagues to access, so that they are able to get to that particular URL without too much trouble. So that's my first URL shortening service that I absolutely love. It's tinyurl.com. So easy, so simplistic, and it's going to make your life as a teacher much easier. So let's head to my second option for URL shortening services, and that is something you might have heard of before, and it is a site called Bitly. Bitly is used by a lot of businesses, governments, brands, corporations to create shorter URLs that they will share with their customers or the public. The great thing about Bitly is it does have a free component, and then there are the premium paid options. Now, you can get away with using Bitly for absolutely nothing, and I don't actually encourage you to go and use the premium version because there's no need to as a teacher. We can get what we need from the free version of Bitly really simply. So I'm at bitly.com here. All I'm going to do is scroll down, and you can see from the homepage that I can create a shortened URL address. So I'm going to head to my YouTube channel for the EdTech teacher, and I'm going to grab the URL for one of my videos here. So I'm just going to scroll down to one of my videos. Scrolling. I'm going to go to this one here, which is my 6 awesome features of Microsoft Word. So I'm going to click on this video, and then I'm just going to pause that so it doesn't start playing on us. I'm going to scroll up here and grab this address. Then I'm going to head back to Bitly. I'm going to paste that address in here where it says shorten your link. Click on the blue shorten button, and then it's going to give me just over here on the right-hand side my shortened version of the Bitly URL that I can then give to my students or colleagues. So now if we click on that particular URL there, it's going to take us to that video, but instead of the students having to type in all of these different characters, numbers, letters, special characters, they're just typing in that Bitly address so that they can access that video. How much easier is that going to be? And there is less chance of somebody making a mistake. One very important tip when it comes to URL shortening services that I will mention is that they are case sensitive. So you can see here that it does have a lowercase k, all right? So the students need to make sure that if it's a lowercase letter or an uppercase letter, it must be typed in like that when they're typing it into their Omnibox or their address bar. All right, so that is the homepage of Bitly. Now, you can actually get a little bit more functionality if you sign up to Bitly for free. So one of the limitations of using Bitly from the homepage is that you are limited on the amount of shortened URLs that you can create per day from the homepage. But if you log in for free and you sign up for free, those restrictions aren't also applicable to an account. So let's log into Bitly. I'm going to log into MyBitly. There's a number of ways that you can get into Bitly. All right, you can sign up with your Google, Twitter, Facebook, or Apple accounts, or you can use your email address. So I've got my email address here. I'm going to log in and access my Bitly account. So I've been using Bitly for quite a number of years, and I still love it because it's one of the easiest ways for me to get my URL addresses to students and prevent them from having those problems with those long, complicated addresses that some websites have. So over here on the left-hand side, you can see that I've created 31 links, and that's 31 links using my logged-in version of Bitly. That doesn't include anything that I've created from the homepage without logging in. So the great thing here is you can see that all of my addresses are there. So if I want to go back and share one again, I can. It also gives me a little bit of analytic data here. You've got one here that you can see that 27 people have accessed, which is really great. So you can see what people have accessed, how many times, if you'd like to keep up with that information. But let's go and have a look at how easy it is to use Bitly again. So I've got this document here from Britannica. It's about ancient Egypt. So maybe I want my students to go through and have a look at this text and to answer some questions or come up with some kind of activity. So this address here is quite complicated. It is pretty simple because it's just literally the title of the article, but it's long. So somebody's probably going to make a mistake somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that address. I'm going to head back to Bitly, up the top here to the orange create button. And then over here on the right-hand side is my panel where I'm going to get ready to create my short URL using Bitly. So all I'm going to do here is paste my URL into this section where it says paste long URL. And then I'm going to press the create button, or like it's done for me, it has already created it without me having to do anything else. It's auto-created the link for me. Now you can title this particular URL so you know what it is if you want to come back to it and share it again later on. But here is my shortened URL. how much easier would that be for the students to access compared to this address here from Britannica? All right. So instead of giving them long, complicated URL addresses, let's shorten them down to make them much easier to access. Now, just as I mentioned with tinyurl, you can customize this back half of the address. So if you want to, create it so it's something specific to your unit or module, you can do that with tinyurl. So URL shortening services are a fantastic way to make our lives as teachers much, much easier. So take those long, complicated URLs, forget about putting them into your presentations, forget about typing them up or writing them on the board. Let's use a URL shortening service like Bitly or tinyurl to take those long, complicated URL addresses and make them smaller so that they're much more manageable for students and colleagues to access. Well, I hope you've learned something and you've taken away something from today's 12 tech tips of Christmas from the EdTech teacher. URL shortening services are amazing, and I encourage you to go out and have a look at them to make your life just a little bit easier in the classroom. Well, that's all for today's 12 tech tips of Christmas. Join us again tomorrow for another day of our 12 tech tips of Christmas. My name is Tristan. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, stay safe.
Thank you so much for watching this video from the EdTech teacher. If you liked this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up so that you can tell other people just how amazing the videos and tutorials are from the EdTech teacher. And if you haven't done so already, we would love it if you would head over here and click the red subscribe button to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget that once you've subscribed to our channel, to click the notification bell so that you are notified when new videos are added to our channel. We are so grateful that you've taken the time to watch one of our videos, and we hope you come back very soon. Thanks very much from the EdTech teacher.